This is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
So according to an advocate group for the homeless, Coalition for the Homeless, the numbers of the amount of homeless people are up in New York City. I'm sure that is an issue we're going to be hearing on the campaign trail from Curtis Sliwa. Curtis, what do you have to say about that?
Absolutely, Liz Radavali. It's a shame. I'll give you an example. In and around the Roosevelt Hotel, which is now a place where commuters go to catch Metro North, the subway system, and the waste of money to catch the Long Island Railroad, as I did yesterday, down in what looks like a mausoleum. So there's a lot of traffic in and out. There's a lot of homeless people who live in the streets in and around the Roosevelt Hotel. Some of them who happen to be veterans who served in peacetime or wartime. They have identification. Most are African-American men, some women. If they were to go to the Roosevelt Hotel and beg, beseech the guards and say, look, I just need a room for the night. I just want to wash up. You need a good night's sleep. They would say, no, you can't come here. There's no room in this inn. Well, wait a second. I see buses coming up every day with illegal aliens, and they're checked right in at taxpayers' expense. I just want a room just for one night, just to get myself together. Sorry, no room for you. So I see incredible numbers of people sleeping in the streets now, sleeping in the parks, obviously sleeping in the subways, who are clearly American. They're not illegal aliens. And so if you happen to be a migrant and illegal alien, hey, you're at the front of the line. You get everything because we pay for it. If you happen to be our American homeless or a veteran who's down on their luck and you're forced to live in the streets, that's it. Tough nookies. You're out in the streets. And by the way, Tunnel to Towers that we promote, their whole year is dedicated to providing housing for homeless veterans, of which there are thousands in this country. You would think they should be in the front of the line.
Yeah, in the city, they adjusted their right to shelter laws. They made all those changes after the so-called migrant crisis started, really picking up here in the city. So you wonder why those same reforms, those same changes wouldn't be extended towards our service members.
There's no money. There's no money in our own homeless living in the streets, but there's lots of money with migrants, which I'll be talking about coming up, billions of dollars. So you say contract Eric Adams, and I ask, where are the kickbacks going?
Yeah, and that it is truly just, terrible stuff with that, those statistics over there. And shifting gears a bit, literally, a lot of listeners are hearing us right now in their cars. Some of them may have been seeing some of these signs. The New Jersey New Jersey Department of Transportation, actually, they have a bunch of highway signs that are pretty punny or, they kind of try to poke at pop culture references. So, Curtis, do they ever get a chuckle out of you?
Well, give me some examples of that, because the only one that I remember in the middle of the lockdown and pandemic was the half in the bag Governor Murphy, and this is what the sign would say.
Knuckleheads, 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 knuckleheads.
Right?
Well, you got the forget about it sign when you enter New York. It says right on the highway.
Yeah,
it says,
too corny. Too corny. So give me like one or two of them.
Yeah, so this one, a lot of people will probably recognize, especially, in New Jersey, a nod to Journey. Don't stop believing. Hold on to that steering wheel.
All right, that's okay.
Yeah,
you got anything a little better than that?
Well, then we got this is a bit more modern. It's a rap reference to Kaya. It says, "Your neck, your back, protect them from impact." Riff on.
Yeah, but that's not good for the people, the slip and fall lawyers. They'll probably object to that because they want you to claim that you have sacroiliac, that you've been in a fender bender, and that you're incontinent, you're impotent, you have nightmares at night, and you need to be rewarded by the sucker taxpayers millions and millions of dollars. It's okay, but if you're looking at the signs, aren't you then in danger if you're driving on the road?
Yeah, well, that's kind of like the weird thing with these. They want to get people's attention. They want to kind of, use these as a public service announcement, say, hey, look at this, keep your eyes on the road, but to do that, they have to take their eyes off the road. So, yeah, no, it doesn't really make sense.
But then again, remember, there's always the audio version of Half in the Bag Murphy.
Knuckleheads, 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 knuckleheads.
And,
yep.
Yeah, and the feds they actually released a guidelines recently that said they strongly advised against any puns or anything like that to try to distract drivers.
If our federal government recommended that you shouldn't do that in New Jersey, I support New Jersey's right to put up messages that then cause you to crash, with the whole goal of it being to keep your hands on the wheel, keep your eyes on the road. But how the hell am I going to keep my eyes on the road if I have to read all these freaking signs?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and you would think that something would be, done about, possibly, making sure that people are still keeping their eyes on the road while also, having these signs go, maybe, changing the position of them, but not really clear what this strategy going forward is.
Yeah, but Jersey drivers, we all know they're crazy. Come on. Everybody knows in New York, you stay out of the lane of the Jersey drivers. We used to call them the blue bozos when their license plates were actually blue.
Yeah, now you see the yellow signs, and it's like a warning.
Exactly. What else you got in the hopper there?
Well, so Curtis, you are the resident animal ambassador here at the station, along with your wife Nancy, and there was a miraculous reunion in the news between Sam the kitten and their owner after 11 years. Curtis, what would you say?
11 years. I mean, how were they reunited after 11 years?
A microchip.
Oh, I get it. So they chipped the kitten. The kitten somehow left you would call it the circumference where the kitten was. It was a feral cat.
Yes.
So the woman lost sight of the feral cat, who disappeared. The assumption would be that feral cat is dead, because they don't live that long. It's a very tough life living outdoors compared to living indoors. But 11 years later, they were reunited? How did that happen?
Yeah, and actually, a shelter found the cat, and it was, very, malnourished. It was feeding off of scraps in another feral colony. So it found another community of cats,
sure.
like-minded cats
sure.
to be with. And, they discovered this microchip under its armpit, and They called up the owner after 11 years. She said that was the last call she was expecting to get. I mean, I get a spam phone call every day, and, that's something that probably would wake me right up, getting a call that 11 years later, my cat is still alive. Sam the kitten.
Glory, hallelujah, hallelujah. That would make Sam as a feral cat about 12 years old. Boy, she's been through a lot.
Yeah, tough cat.
And then I understand you had mentioned my wife, Nancy, Lone Wolf One. She will be making an appearance in the midnight hour, as I do a number of shifts. I'll be O'Reilly tonight from 9 to 10, and then I do my normal shift, which is the better side of the other side of midnight, 12 midnight to 6. Saturday morning, so nice they have me do it twice. Sunday mornings from 12 midnight to 6. She'll be joining me tonight, because I've got to ask her the question that you were asking and everyone else around the newsroom. There are 2 coyotes now in Central Park.
Yeah, no longer a lone wolf in that sense. It now has a female companion. I mean, Central Park has been seeing a lot of coyotes dating back to 2019. Their numbers spiked. Even across the tri-state area, New Jersey, they were dealing with a group of coyotes that had scabies. They were trying to treat them. The coyotes have been kind of taking over the Northeast. Some people say climate change. Some people, say change in.
I get all that, Liz. And I get like the coyotes would be in trendy Saddle River, and all of a sudden they'd have a curfew. The coyotes are out there with scabies. Calm down, Saddle River. But Central Park is in the middle of Manhattan. There's no green that attaches it from the west side or the east side or the north side or the south side. It's pure concrete. This would have required coyotes somehow negotiating their way through the canyons of steel, glass-encased skyscrapers.
Yeah, you wonder how they got there.
Well, the only one who would know that is Lone Wolf One, because she actually grabbed me one morning And she was out there. She's out there in the wee hours of the morning in the rambles. And she was tracking coyote tracks. She knew it was the coyote.
Whoa, how?
As opposed to a dog.
How do you tell the difference?
I have absolutely no freaking idea. When she comes in at 12 midnight tonight, she can actually explain, number one, why did she go into Central Park, especially when there's a full moon, a blue moon, a red moon, a blood moon, and bay to the moon. And all the animals, it's sort of like they just all start congregating around Nancy. It's like, who is that? Dr. Doolittle, right?
Snow White.
Right. Snow White, Dr. Doolittle, St. Francis of Assisi, all those folks. She's got that magic touch. She would know how a male coyote first came into Central Park, the one she tracked, and how a female coyote ended up, which ultimately means when they have the urge to merge, that there will be baby coyotes in Central Park, and there's only one person I know of who can explain this. Nancy Sliwa, Lone Wolf One. By the way, I'm sure she'll give an extended version Sunday night as she does every week on the Animal Welfare Hour. That's 10 to 11, exclusively right here at WABC.
Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa. Rip and read. Check this out.
This is the Rip and Read, featuring Curtis Sliwa.
Talking about
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa. This is the Rip and Read.
Somewhere out on that horizon, out beyond the neon lights, I know there must be something better, but there's nowhere else in sight. It's survival in the city.
Survival in the City. This is the theme song by Joe Walsh for The Warriors, the cult movie classic that gives you a perfect idea what it was like in the subways 1979 when I started the Guardian Angels. The Warriors came out in February of 1979 across the country on movie screens in movie theaters. And I began the Guardian Angels on February 13th of 1979 with just 13 members, my closing crew at McDonald's where I was a night manager. And I said soon we would be all over the world as we are now, Diego, in 13 countries with thousands of members. And we'll be celebrating that tomorrow in Canarsie as we have our annual picnic there for the members and their families. But I thought it was important to acknowledge that the landsman of Sid Rosenberg, his very dear friend in the police department, Michael Kemper, has put in his resignation papers. He is retiring. And it's interesting because he was put in as chief of the transit police by Mayor Eric Adams back in December. The subways were chaotic. You remember Kathy Hochul, she's full of nonsense, sent the National Guard in. Yeah, that really helped, right? All you had to do is say, no, I don't want you to check my backpack. Keep your freaking hands off of me, right? The Guard weren't able to do anything. Typical of Kathy Hochul, put the National Guard in and then render them impotent so they can't do anything. But crime was skyrocketing. So Michael Kemper, who I've known for years when he was assigned to the 90th precinct in Williamsburg, and then the biggest precinct in the city, the most active at that time, 75th precinct, East New York, Brooklyn, was given this responsibility as chief of the transit police. And boy, oh boy, it was a tough job. He came on with Sid Rosenberg, again his friend and his landsman, member of Shamrim, the Shamrim Society of the Police Department. And Sid made a suggestion. He said, why don't you break bread at the 2nd Avenue Deli with Curtis? because Curtis knows more about the subways than anyone else.
Curtis, as you know, is on 7 a.m. every morning. I know you listen when you can. So he really does know the subways. You know that. All kidding aside, let's all stick aside. Nobody knows the subways like Curtis. He has spent the better part of 45 years traveling those subways all over New York. He can tell you at every stop the history of every stop on the subway. So this morning he says, listen, I want to volunteer my services. I know you love Michael Kemper. I do. I want to help the city of New York. I want to sit down with Kemper at the 2nd Avenue Deli and try to help figure this thing out. Are you willing to sit down with Curtis and have that type of meeting?
No, of course I am. Look, you hit the nail on the head. Curtis has been around a long time, decades. And if anyone knows the subway system, it's him. You know, I'm willing to talk to anyone. And I know how much a big a fan he is of mine personally.
He's correct. He was prepared to sit down, and I was going to order a tongue, on rye with a little bit of the mustard. Yeah, not mayonnaise, you schmuck, Diego. But that never happened because the pressure came from City Hall. You don't meet with Curtis, or you may have to file for early retirement. And why is this, Justin Ellick, that all of your institutions on Manhattan, the 2nd Avenue Deli is really on 1st Avenue? The Park Avenue Synagogue is not on Park Avenue. The Sutton Synagogue is not on Sutton Place. They're never where they're supposed to be. But I was more than prepared to go there and share my knowledge, as Michael Kemper knows it was vast. But that only hurt the city. Just like when I offered to become the rat czar for no money, because I know rats, 2-legged rats, and more importantly, 4-legged rats were nocturnal. But I know Michael Kemper really wanted to have a sit-down. I know Sid wanted to sort of be there, and we would have discussed transit, because that was not his primary role, transit. Remember, Foot Cop, 90th Precinct, 75th Precinct, good cop. We're losing a good police officer. In fact, what I would have done, because the rumor is very strong that the missing in action police commissioner, Eddie Caban, you never see the guy. He's like a police commissioner in name only. He's a good guy. If Eric Adams would just let him run the department instead of constantly interfering. But the rumor is that he will be leaving soon to go into private enterprise, and that the chief, Madre, the first deputy commissioner, is departing for a private sector job in Atlanta. He studied for his law boards, whatever, but it looks like there's going to be quite a change-up. If I were mayor, Justin Ellick, I would have picked the chosen person, Michael Kemper, the landsman, to be the police commissioner in New York. He knew the department as well as anybody. It should have been his turn. Did a great job in the subways. Remember how bad they were? Nah, they're not where they need to be. They're a hell of a lot better than they were. And when push came to shove, Eric Adams assigned that responsibility to Michael Kemper. Sort of reminds me, we go full circle. It was back in January of 1979. It was beginning, ready to launch the Guardian Angel Subway Safety Patrol on the number 4 train at Fordham Road. And our only supporter was Father James McNally of St. Nicholas at Talentine. And he said, hey, let's have a meeting with Sandy Garelick. Sanford Garelick had been the city council president and became the transit police chief commissioner when it was a separate entity from the NYPD. You had housing, you had transit, and you had the NYPD. So I had a meeting. Sanford Garelick, who lived in the Fordham Hills apartments right along Sedgwick and West Fordham Road in the shadow of St. Nicholas and Talentine, a landsman, by the way, said to Father McNally and me, I'd love to work with you guys, but the union will never go for it. McKechnie, who became my nemesis. Soon after, Ed Koch, who hated my guts, Diego, put all of the pressure to get rid of Sanford Garelick. In the back of my mind, he said, this guy could challenge me for the mayoralty, and he would have support. So I want to get rid of him. He supports Curtis Sliwa and the Guardian Angels. I don't like that. So he put in Chief James Meehan from Brooklyn, who hated my guts. Wow, we've gone from Landsman, Sanford Garelick, to the now departing transit police chief, Landsman Michael Kemper.
This is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
You see, that was then Phil Collins in Genesis. But oh boy, after the invasion, and they're still coming across our borders, the tone has changed from Genesis and Phil Collins to suddenly a song that epitomizes everything. Don't come around here no more. Yeah, you like that segue, Diego. Think James Golden could do that? Of course not. Oh. This is the song that is being sung in communities all throughout the 5 boroughs of the city of New York. And it's being sung in urban areas all across America, and now in suburban areas outside of Denver, Chicago, and wherever these illegal aliens are migrating to. So let me get you up to speed. Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan, aided and abetted this invasion by Papa Chulo, Joe Biden, who has kept the border unsealed and open. And he stood there with the checkerboard flag of the Indianapolis 500 saying, "Andale, andale, andale." And boy, they were all coming in. And they were coming in from all over the world. And then in September of last year, Eric Adams, who was giving them swag bags, giving them more free stuff than any other city in America, and that's why 9 out of every 10 illegal alien wanted to come to New York City. He hit the brick wall, and he realized it's going to bankrupt New York City. It's going to destroy New York City.
This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants a month. Now we're getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City.
Now that was over a year ago, right? Going to destroy us. But it's too much money. This is people smuggling. This is not sex trafficking. This is not drug trafficking. This is actually more lucrative to elected officials because it's not the danger in getting indicted for sex trafficking or drug trafficking. But when you traffic in human beings and then you rip off the taxpayers to subsidize it, for every one no-bid contract that Eric Adams has signed under emergency orders, there's all those kickbacks. And then he picked the location, Justin, like he picks all the locations, based on where he thinks there's going to be blowback, pushback. Like, he ain't going to Staten Island no more, man. We kicked his ass right out of there. He tried to open up 8 different mortar and brick, old-fashioned shelters for the migrants, and we were able collectively to shut him down. The elected officials, Republicans and Democrats working together, great lawyers, and the rebels, of which I helped lead the effort. So he ain't even looking at Staten Island no more. So he goes to the path of least resistance. And he looked on the map and he said, oh, there's Clinton Hill, right down there near the Brooklyn Navy Yard under the BQE. They're so liberal. They're so progressive there. They're Democratic Socialists of America. Tish James, the Attorney General, lives there. Oh, that's right. The Comptroller Brad Lander. Jumaane Williams loves to go there. Whoa, it's an enclave for progressives and liberals. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to dump 4,500 500 single able-bodied young men of military age with nothing to do, nowhere to go, and I'm going to put them in one square block, Hall Street and Ryerson, as you move towards the Brooklyn Navy Yard under the BQE. And for a long time, the neighborhood there, they said, what can we do to welcome them? But, boys, we can't use the parks anymore for our kids. They're coming up on Myrtle Avenue. They're shoplifting. You know, they're harassing people. They're wolfing down the women. What are we going to do? They couldn't figure out what to do, but they couldn't break from their liberal, progressive, democratic, socialist roots that wanted to welcome them. So they thought they could continue to have illegals there, but sort of spread the wealth as they view this as wealth. Listen to Renee Collymore, activist from the community, long-term African-American woman who has been on with Dominic Carter on a number of occasions, complaining about it, but not to send the illegals back or to get them the hell out of here. No. She just wants to spread it. She views it as if it's spreading the wealth.
Well, listen, if he accepts them as he has, that's fine. But there is an ask from Clinton Hill. And what we would like to see is even distribution across Brooklyn. We need Borough Park to have the same amount of migrants as we do. Williamsburg needs to have the same amount. Midwood, Hartsville, Brooklyn Heights, Bensonhurst, and all over Brooklyn. This is an outrage that we are being targeted. The neighbors feel that we're being targeted. So we have to reduce the population that we already have and no more incoming migrants. We have enough. The city should partner with local residents who speak the languages of the migrants. There are people who speak French who live in the neighborhood. There are people that speak Spanish that we can help. The neighbors want to help, but we need to have some structure that we can follow.
Is she hopelessly naive? Of course. There's no other neighborhood that's going to accept illegal aliens from Clinton Hill, from Hall Street, Ryerson. And let me give you some breaking news because the gangs now control that migrant center that starts on Hall Street and then goes over to Ryerson Street.
Breaking news, WABC.
You know, the other day I was having a conversation with a guy who runs Viral News. He's on top of all these illegal alien situations all over. And I said to him, you know, I have it on good authority that four Venezuelan gangbangers, chased another Venezuelan into the entrance hall of that huge, massive migrant center. And then they just bum rushed right past the private security guards, grabbed this guy, beat him up, stomped him, and then took out a blade. And Diego, they sliced his finger off. Almost like Yakuza in Japan, right? And they took everything off of him. A few dozen people were watching. And they said in Spanish, you guys didn't see anything. And then they walked out like they owned the place. And they do. They weren't stopped by private security. There were no cops out there at all. So what the city is doing, and this is what you need to do if you live in that area, and please don't be so hopelessly, naively spun. The city has now decided to send its worst hombres to Hall Street and Ryerson under the BQE in Clinton Hill. And you got gangs there, Venezuelan gangs battling Venezuelan gangs. Now, the North Africans, who are pretty quiet, are being preyed upon by the Venezuelans. So what do, Diego? They have to form their own gang to protect themselves from what? The Venezuelans. So people have been shot there, they've been stabbed there, they've been beaten there. The private security officers, they can't do anything or choose to do nothing. It is an absolute mess. And the mayor had a sit-down dinner with this same Renee Collymore and 10 selected leaders in that community. And he promised, I'll transfer some of them out. Hey, ma quana mai, as they say in Italian. He sold them wolf tickets. Not one has been transferred out. And by the way, they've transferred more in. But, hold on a second. More breaking news.
Breaking news, WABC.
And this comes directly from City Hall itself, where the rats are leaving the sinking ship. People wonder, Justin Alec, how I'm able to get all this information ahead of even Eric Adams speaking about it in a manner that is informative to you, the taxpayers, who are going to have to pay for all this crap. Well, number one, there are people who work in the permanent government They are the people who, doesn't matter who the mayor is, they're there. They're civil servants. They draw up the contracts. They're in the buildings department. They have to make sure the specs are checked. And many of them grew up in Canarsie with me. They're Democrats. They came through the Thomas Jefferson Club on 92nd and Conklin. It's hopelessly corrupt. They're patronage appointees, but they are so pissed at what they're seeing. Who do you think they call up, Diego? They call up Curtis Sliwa. Shh, don't put my fingerprints on this. I say, oh, it's okay. But, I'm going to have to check, double check, triple check so that you're not selling me a yarn so that I go on the most powerful radio station in the nation by day from coast to coast, most powerful at night in the world, and then I give misinformation in my agreement with John Katzimatidis, because so many want me fired here, especially in City Hall, that if I'm wrong, I'm gone. Let me give me that breaking news sounder again, man. There's so much
breaking news. WABC.
Okay, so let's first go to AOC land, all out crazy. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, leader of the Socialists of America. She represents Long Island City. As you know, Justin, many of your friends, hipsters and millennials, they loved Long Island City before. They had all their little boutique hotels. They come here, they stay there, right by the East River, right in the shadow of the Ed Koch. No, make that the 59th Street Bridge. No, make that the Queensboro Bridge. You think you could pick one name? But the point being, it's right there. And the largest public housing project in America is a Queensbridge in America. And the brothers who used to control that, they're not even out on the corners anymore, Diego, because the Venezuelans rule, man. They rule. And I asked the brothers, I went down to the basketball court. They were hanging out. I said, since when do they run the corners here? He goes, the cops don't arrest them. Us will get arrested. I can't afford to be arrested no more. So, basically, if you're a migrant in that area, 23 of the migrant hotels that used to be boutique hotels, you have immunity from arrest. You can do anything. There's no curfew. You're out there selling drugs. You're blasting your boom boxes to the wee hours of the morning. You're having a barbecue. Your kids are running around. Doesn't matter. Well, guess what? They're opening up the 24th migrant shelter in Long Island City in 2 weeks at 4711 Austell Place. 400 single able-bodied men with nothing to do and nowhere to go. And ladies in Long Island City, I know many of you hipsters and millennials, you love to read Catcher in the Rye, drink your Starbucks. They don't have enough women. I'm telling you, they don't have enough women. 24. And AOC welcomes more. She kicked out Amazon, right? Which would have brought jobs, economic vitality. She kicked him out, Jeff Bezos, but she keeps welcoming in the illegal aliens. Oh, let's go for the trifecta, the Trinity, the Troika. More breaking news. Come on.
Breaking news. WABC.
Now, didn't Eric Adams say, could you play that first cut, please? Didn't he say it was going to destroy the city, right? This is a year ago, right? Let me hear that.
This issue will destroy New York City.
The illegal alien issue. Remember he said, he's issuing more requests for proposals. They called RFPs. There will be counted, Justin, 25 new shelters opened up throughout the 5 boroughs January 1st. 13 of them will be converted hotel, motels, Holiday Inn Expresses. The other 12 will be brick and mortar facilities. So they're doing a request for proposal, spending millions, billions of our dollars. If you provide blankets, food, security, everything that we're going to give to the illegal aliens free. See, Eric Adams is hell-bent on destroying this city because he knows soon he's on his way in chains and shackles to the big house in Otisville for political corruption. He knows the jig is up for him. But boy, he's got a lot of cronies. And in the words of his mentor, Sheldon Silver, a.k.a. Meyer Lansky, a.k.a. Hyman Roth, I got to feed my people. And so Eric Adams, his sort of bon voyage statement to all the taxpayers is, I'm going to sign all of these requests for proposal applications. I am going to make them no-bid contracts under an emergency situation. And whereas I will sign these contracts, all my cronies will get their kickbacks. And now, Diego and Justin and all of you out there, you know the rest of the story.
Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
Curtis doesn't know about you, but he rips and reads.
This is the Rip and Read. It's the left versus the right. In the right corner, Dominic Carter. In the left corner, it's Anthony Weiner. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios. It's a 77 WABC debate. The melee in the metropolis.
You know, Anthony, I love to walk around the city. Last night I was in Bayside, Bell Boulevard, and then I walked through an area I'd never walked through before, Bayside Hills. Magnificent. People stopping me. What do you think they were talking about out of all the programs at WABC?
Were they talking about me and Dominic?
Left versus right. Are they killing each other? Is there a referee? Is this like a cage match? You know, really? Why, do they get along with one another? All these questions, and it's here I am. Hey, I do a few shows on WABC. It is, without a doubt.
Well, you want to know, and at the other end of the spectrum, my 13-year-old son had me and Dominic pop up in his feed on TikTok because apparently there's one out there with 800,000 views, and there's nothing TikTok likes more than a black guy and a Jewish guy yelling at each other. They love that stuff.
Oh, we remember in the streets, we loved it. White versus black, everybody would pour out into the streets. So now you had a chance to look at what everybody, well, not everybody, but those that are interested, to look at Harris and her vice presidential candidate being interviewed by Dana Bash of CNN. As a reviewer, you'll be Ebert and I'll be what the hell is his name?
Siskel and Ebert. Yeah, you got it right. Okay. I mean, look, the bottom line is the Republicans inadvertently made a big event out of a run-of-the-mill interview. And there was not a lot of there. It was paper thin. But I just I'm looking at Kamala Harris and I'm thinking, the voice in her head is, don't mess it up, don't mess it up, don't mess it up. And she didn't mess it up. I mean, look, you want to say she changed her position on things. I don't think that anyone holds that against a candidate anymore, especially when you're running against Donald Trump, who flip-flops all over the place. She didn't screw it up. I think also she might have been saving some of her zingers for the debate. If she's got a big zinger in her pocket about race that she's not using. But I got to tell you, that's the one thing I'm interested in what you have to say. It seems like she's really downplaying the race and gender thing. Like she doesn't want to make the Hillary Clinton mistake. And I know the Republicans want to talk about it, and Dominic talks about it nonstop on left versus right, but she clearly doesn't want to go there.
Dana Bash gave her a 13-inch clincher on one of the questions. What did you make of Donald Trump talking about the fact that you've discovered your blackness?
Yeah.
And she said, I'm not going there.
I'm not taking the bait.
This is him. You know, this is typical Donald Trump.
It's a strategy. But hey, do you know how many times she mentioned her race in her convention speech? 0. Do you know how many times she mentioned that she was a Democrat in her convention speech? 0. This is like she's going to rebrand herself as close to the middle as she can, and the Republicans are going to try to brand her as an out there liberal.
You don't hear the conversation any longer. Wow, Trump has a chance to win New York. So the fact is, they realize it really is the battleground states. And to win battleground states, you must morph to the middle. You must homogenize yourself. You can't be too urban. You're too urban, you ain't going to win. That was Barack Obama's successes. He wasn't viewed as just urban. You know, he could be accepted in a rural area, suburban area. And I think she's following in that path. And then to help that along, she got the coach. Yeah. You know, she got the scarecrow
there. But I
there.
got to say, it has been a flawless month or so for her.
Yes.
And she's winning by 1 point.
Right.
It's not like you to talk to Democrats on the street, they think, oh my God, we're walking on sunshine.
Well, wait
here.
a second. Remember, you were sitting Shiva for Joe Biden. It was an Italian wake. Now it's an Irish wake. You're singing L'chaim instead of sunset,
things are a lot better.
Sunset, or whatever the hell from Fiddler on the Roof.
Look, things are a lot better, but if you look at the average of the polls, it's about 9% that's undecided.
Yeah.
And those people are two things. They hate both of them, so they can't bring themselves to say,
right.
Or they're super duper low information voters that don't know anybody. They're just not paying attention.
Well,
so they might tune in and see Kamala and say, okay, she seems like the flavor of the moment.
I bet if I'm Kamala, I just got to keep setting the traps to keep Donald Trump
off
his focused because, remember, recent polls indicate both Democrats and Republicans, economy 1, inflation 2, migrants 3, abortion 4. So that's 3 that should play towards Trump. But, boy, if you can distract him and get him
well,
all
he
focused.
does it himself. Every day, what makes news is stuff coming out of his mouth. Look, their advertisements actually are very good. I've been watching what's playing in the swing states. They're doing a good job trying to define Kamala Harris. The problem is all the free media is Donald Trump doing crazy things at the Arlington National Cemetery or saying crazy things about IVF. He's all over the map, and he's turned out to be a terrible
Now, talk
candidate.
about a flip-flopper.
Oh, my goodness.
Here he is in the cheese state, Wisconsin, which is the most liberal progressive of the states, the battleground states. And he promised free IVF, right? Free IVF, if not the insurance company, the government, for everyone.
I proposed this to expand Obamacare for this. The Democrats said that was too far out there. And now the Republicans, it is unbelievable with the flip-flopping he does.
Now, he's only got to go one better. He's got to offer rebates for all the people who went into bankruptcy in order to afford it. That is an extremely
Very
expensive.
That's exactly
Can you imagine if he says, like student debt, like Biden with student debt? And for any of you who had invested in IVF before, whether it worked or it didn't work, we're paying for you too. What the hell, a $35 trillion debt? We'll add a few dollars.